Hi, everybody. Welcome to After the Sermon. I haven't been looking forward to this one because it was easy to go after Mike on all of his sermons, but now Pastor Randy's going to go after me. I'm kidding. We're just going to have a nice conversation about Psalms of the Ascent. Um, if you were there on Sunday or have listened online, we did Psalm 120, 121, and 122 in a cycle. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what Pastor Randy, his insights to the Psalms and just thoughts about things that could help us dig a little bit deeper. Hey, Pastor Randy, how are you?
I'm doing well, and it's good to see you again and get to converse together.
Yeah, where are you guys heading? Are you just going to lunch or are you traveling?
No, we're not traveling. Angela just finished physical therapy, and so now we're going to run some errands.
Nice. Very good. And it's my understanding that we're going to see you this weekend.
We plan on being there this weekend. Yes, looking forward to it.
Awesome. We look at so hey, give us some thoughts about the Psalms of the Ascents.
Well, the thing that has been jumping out to me was your Spurgeon quote about lying,
Hmm.
and what the cannibals eat you after you're dead, but lying eats you while you're still alive, or
Yeah,
something
that's
close
right.
to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that
Were
was
you
right. That was
was
Spurgeon.
that a new quote for you to see this time, or is it one that's rattled in your brain for a while?
This was a new one for me to when I was reading. As you know, Spurgeon did the Treasury of David, and he preached
Mhm.
through all the Psalms, and so I was reading what he had on Psalm 120, and that was a new quote that I saw.
I mean, is that a pencil drop one? We call it a mic drop, but I mean, when you first saw it, how did it hit you?
I felt what an interesting comparison. The first thing I thought was, I'm going to say the word cannibal, and my youngest daughter is going to be excited in church because she likes all the scary movies. And so, and then the second thing I thought was, what an interesting comparison because, all of our lives have been impacted by liars and lies, and I'm sure I've done my share. But to understand how awful it is, that comparison really struck me. That it is a horrible thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's horrible when it happens to us, and we don't realize it's horrible when we do it to someone else, right?
That's right.
It seems less than that, and I even think a step further. I think we have an idea that, well, if we're telling the truth, because this topic was lying, but if we're telling the truth, hey, that's the truth. Well, no, if we're undermining somebody else, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
it's a horrible thing. And so I really appreciate that quote. I liked your outline because I felt in a lot of ways it took us a lot into our up in and out kind of situation,
Yep.
and how we tried to view our walk. But I liked how you started off with unplugging from the world, and you know we get so busy doing good, I think, that we miss better or best. I think often I remember a pastor I served with in the past who would really go after, does your cottage own you or do you own your cottage? Because if you're going every weekend to your cottage, and I think your last point even got into the idea of, yeah, God can meet us anywhere, but his design is to meet us in church. That was his design, right?
That's right.
And so I think the travel sports, I mean, can be such a good thing, but I don't know, it can take over, um, where things own us instead of us owning them and using them. So the unplugging, and I know you've shared with while you're driving on unplugging, and you can be used a lot of different ways, but just that calmness and quietness can really be a good thing.
It really
So
has been for me just to give my space for, hopefully God will speak or something will come from, my mind or my heart and I'll be able to hear it. But it's like remember that illustration? Like if you're holding on to something so tightly, your hands aren't open to receive what God has to give you.
yeah, yeah, which might be better, and I should say it will be better.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time with that. It was a sermon in itself, and I really appreciate it because when I think of the Psalms of Ascent or these steps, I constantly think of the praise aspect of them.
Yeah.
And I like that David was real, where he's not, it's not a praise and ascent just when life is good. He takes a moment to relate to all of us and saying, uh, it stinks right now. My life stinks, or there's things going on that aren't right. Was it Eleanor Roosevelt who said, instead of cursing in darkness, let's light a candle?
Hmm.
Um, and so, but you first have to realize and accept that we are going through a difficulty. And he does that. And, we can get in this, our mindset with David that, oh, he was king, life was easy. Any fight that he had with animal or giant, he wins. What a simple life. Scripture doesn't record it that way, does it?
No,
And
thankfully.
yeah, and so I think to start off with the Psalms of Ascent of those who are intentionally after us, undermining us, and you shared very openly, it's not just outside the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I felt that to be, at what point did you realize that that's where you needed to start with this ascent?
It was interesting because in those times when we go through them, it's very easy to let go of this toxic world. But I also, what kept going through my mind is that we've created such comfortable lives for ourselves that there's this apathy towards unplugging from the noise and plugging into God because everything's going great. We have beautiful homes and beautiful cars, and we make good salaries, and we're taking good vacations, and it's not so bad. And unless something's really happening in your life, but it seems like we forget, we lose the motivation unless we're in the midst of the pain. And in the midst of the pain, it's like, man, I'd rather be in heaven than to be in this hell. And but once that pain goes away, I think we so quickly forget, and I think it's a gift and it's grace from God, but we forget, and we tend to lose our plugging into God because we slip back into the noise of the world. So I think that when you see in the ascent is this metaphorical, well, ultimately it's heaven, but this church or synagogue or Temple Mount, I think, how do you get people from sitting in their home to coming and wanting to praise and worship the Lord? And it's not, no one seeks the Lord, right? In Romans 3. And so what
Yeah.
is it that's motivating us? God is motivating us, but how do we overcome ourselves? How do we get out of the way so we follow him?
I know we've had so many families talk about trying to unplug when it comes to dinner, just from their
Yeah,
phones, right?
yeah,
And I've heard of people doing cleansing by trying to unplug from social media because that can even heighten our despair because people are posting so many positive things of their lives, right?
right.
Um, that it puts me into a wrong perspective of my life and the contentment that Paul talks about in Philippians 4. So I really enjoyed the unplugging from the world. And that can be so many things, but I think one of them is that the world doesn't win, God wins.
Yeah,
And that although a lot's coming at us, including that whole topic of lying, slander, he wins and
yeah.
he hears us. So I thought that was a beautiful start. And yeah, and Spurgeon's quote fit in so well, very
What do you
challenging.
think? What do you think of Psalm 121 with kind of the idea of plugging into God and allowing him to direct our steps, and he won't let our foot slip. All those great verses.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing because even in counseling we talk about when you're breaking a bad habit, you need to replace it with a good habit. And so immediately when you're unplugging from something, what are you plugging into, right?
Yeah,
And because if you don't plug into something else, you're just going to fall right back into it. And so I love that whole idea of plugging into God, and it's amazing. Um, we could get into those dry seasons, and often the dry seasons lead to, well, I'm just not praying as much, or I'm not in the Word as much, and we forget what we have when we do that, and
Hmm.
the blessings of it. And so, um, yeah, unplug from the world, plug in to God, spending time with Him, listening to Him, and being open with Him, honest with Him. He knows it already, and so, and then Him to show up. That's just the beauty of it. We've had for Angela especially, a harder month, to say it lightly, and but it's amazing on how many times we're seeing God show up, and just situation after situation where um, you know there's not a room available for her mom, and then, oh, I refreshed my screen and there's one available. I don't know how that happened, and just those kinds of things that, if we look for them, they're there. He's very active in our lives, and I think too often we forget that he's not going to let our foot slip. He's holding on, and that's a good place.
Yeah, I really appreciate when the psalmist, if it's David, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it quite right, but this idea of shamar, to keep, guard, preserve, protect. And when he uses it 6 times in 8 verses, it really makes it clear to a preacher what the point of the psalm is, you know? And so I was really appreciative that it's so clear that the Lord watches over you, and the Lord watches over you, and the Lord will keep you, and the Lord will preserve you. And it really did make me, I don't know, was that a blast from the past with the Rich Mullins song?
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't know if
I
you ever think
enjoyed
about
it.
that, but I love that part of that song, but step by step you'll lead me. And
Yeah,
when I'm in the tough seasons, I think of the illustration that God lights a lamp unto our feet, not a high beam, to show us the destination. And that he's it. And when you're like, when I was in New York, my daughters kept saying, Dad, you got to keep looking down so you don't step in anything. But at the same time, you got to keep looking up. Like you need one eye down and one eye forward. And it's hard to do that. But the Lord, I think maybe I'm supposed to keep my head down, looking to my feet and trust, where I'm going to the Lord, that I don't need to keep an eye on my guide, my spiritual leader, where he's taken me.
yeah. The light onto the path will be there at times, but the lamp to our feet, we need to appreciate that. That I just need to trust Him with my next step. I'll just take that next step, and He'll be there to take me to the next step. I don't need to see
Right.
the whole thing, the big picture. And the reason, unfortunately, I probably want to see the whole picture so I can correct God, because I will be in control, right?
Yes.
It's like,
That's the wrong destination,
it's,
God. I want to go over here. I'm sure you meant
or I
that one
want
for Pastor Randy.
or I want to do it this way. I don't want to go through that to get there. Um, no, it's just step by step. So, and then I think, your last point with then, plugging into community. It's a great time for this message because of getting into the fall season when we're having ones that meet in the home, but even in our church building, right?
Yeah.
And opportunities for people, um, not only for the Lord to speak into their lives through others, but for them to speak in other people's lives. And I think we often view church of, it's good when I need it. Well, hold on. How about when we need you? you know, you want to go another old song? How about that "Lean on Me," right? Because there's gonna
Yeah.
be a day where I'm gonna need to lean on you. And so, I think that's a lot of the, Paul in, is it First Thessalonians, I think 2:8, when he says, "We didn't just share the gospel with you; we shared our very lives." And wow, I always thought of Paul just sharing the gospel, but these small groups and coming together, and then also serving together, but learning together, worshiping together. And what a way to let others speak in our lives, us speak in their lives.
Yeah, and you definitely should, if I went a little bit too far, you should say, but I really have been thinking a lot about when you see this God pointing his people to community on earth, which is reflecting a shadow of ultimately what we'll be doing in heaven. If people don't enjoy church and serving in the church and worshiping and praising in the church, that's concerning for their eternity. like, I'm not sure they're going to like eternity there, you know?
I think you have obviously you're a lawyer, you have gift with words. You're a wordsmith, right? When you said it, I was like, whoa, that's a strong statement. You know what? I don't think I can argue. It's like it's one of
Now, if
those
my
ones where
wife
like,
would only feel that way, Randy, if our wives only felt like they understood, we win some arguments, but my wife has said I've never won an argument with her. So, but yeah, no, I, and I recognize that we're imperfect on this side of heaven. So so was the temple and the festivals and things like that. But
yeah,
yet, the people who were really following the Lord understood there was great rejoicing to come be with God's people and his community, doing the things that we'll be doing in heaven. And I don't know what people think is going to be going on in heaven if they think we're just going to be playing golf only, or
yeah,
I think the dominant thing we're going to be doing is praising and worshiping him, and it's going to fill our hearts with joy, and it's going to be done great. One of the things I put in my sermon I chose not to do was, even if we picked the most perfect worship leader, some people might say Christian Stanfield from Passion or Elevation or whatever it is. I bet you would have people in the church that would get bored and complain about the most
yeah.
perfect worship leader. And if we had the most perfect preacher, they would complain. Ultimately we get that's us. It's not the church. The church is somebody's giving the gift of their that God has given them to share, hopefully in pureness. So the issues on what the imperfections of the church is really the person sitting in the seat issue, not so much the servant issue.
Yeah, well, if we had the opportunity to walk with Jesus, right, we would. What those who criticized him?
Yeah.
You know, a guy falls asleep when Paul's preaching. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more than those things. And yeah, no, I think you hit a really good point there, and a very challenging point that we need to process.
Any final words, Pastor Randy?
No, I love we talked about this with Mike also, Pastor Mike, but just the practical aspect of the messages of being true to God's word and with some things we can work on and watching what we say um, and then intentionally spending time with people. I think you talked about the five people, right?
Yeah.
And so let's be around people that intentionally be around people that point us and remind us to face you or to face to him, the Lord. So thank you for the message and I kind of thank you for the Spurgeon quote.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we can't wait to see you this weekend. So travel safely. And
Thank
hey,
you.
if you want to do an epic, we have a slot ready for you to do an epic if you have one in your back pocket.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
All right. Have a great one.
Thanks, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.